My name is Lucia Reyes, and I learned to cook standing on a wooden stool in my grandmother's kitchen in El Paso, Texas. The stool had been hand-carved by my grandfather before he died, and it wobbled slightly to the left, but I never fell. Abuela Elena would hand me a wooden spoon and say, "Prueba esto, taste this." She taught me that a perfect mole takes 3 days, that you never rush the sofrito, and that the secret to great tortillas isn't the recipe, but the warmth of your hands. Her kitchen smelled of cumin, roasted chiles, and the faint sweetness of piloncillo melting on the stove. The walls were painted with murals of suns and moons Sol y Luna that she'd painted herself when she was young. Those murals would become the name of my restaurant, and the symbol of everything I would build and nearly lose. I moved to Austin at 25 with $4,000 in savings, a culinary degree from the CIA in San Antonio, and a binder full of Abula's recipes written in her spidery handwriting. I worked the line at 3 different restaurants, saving every penny, dreaming of my own place. At a food festival in 2014, I met Javi Ortega. He was charming in the way that people who've never faced consequences often are. Quick smile, easy laugh, a way of making you feel like you are the most important person in the room. He came from money. His uncle had made a fortune in Houston commercial real estate, and he was looking for a restaurant concept to invest in. He tried my mole at the festival, and 5 minutes later, he was pitching me on a partnership. "You have the talent," he said, gesturing with a plastic fork. "I have the capital. Together, we could build something incredible." I was skeptical. I'd heard stories about chefs losing control of their own restaurants, but JV seemed different. He agreed to a 51-49 split in my favor. He put up $150,000 in startup capital. He said all the right things about creative control and respecting the vision. We found a converted warehouse on East 6th Street, exposed brick, high ceilings, big windows that let in the Texas sun. I painted the walls myself with murals of suns and moons, just like Abula's kitchen. We named it Sol y Luna. We opened on a Friday in March 2015. The first year was brutal. Austin's restaurant scene is fiercely competitive, and we were the new kids with no reputation and a concept that was hard to categorize. Traditional Mexican techniques with modern presentation. Mole that took 3 days. Tortillas made by hand every morning. I worked 16-hour days. I slept on a cot in the back office more often than I slept in my apartment. I hired and trained every line cook, sourced every chili from small farms in the Rio Grande Valley, and personally tasted every single dish that left the kitchen. JV handled the front of house, the books, the investors, the press. He was good at it. I'll give him that. By year 3, Sol y Luna had a 6-month waiting list. We'd been reviewed in Texas Monthly, a revelation, Food and Wine, the soul of Mexican cooking in the heart of Texas, and the New York Times travel section worth the flight to Austin. We were grossing $2.4 million a year. I was nominated for a James Beard Award. Life was good, or so I thought. The cracks started appearing in year 4. JV began pushing me to step back from day-to-day operations. "You're burning out," he said, with what looked like genuine concern. "Your hands are shaking. When's the last time you took a day off? Let me bring in a head chef. You can focus on the brand, the PR, the vision stuff." I was tired. My hands were shaking, early stage carpal tunnel from years of knife work. My marriage to my husband Carlos was strained from my constant absence. I agreed to step back. It was the worst decision of my life. The new head chef was a man named Derek, a competent but uninspired cook JV had found through some connection of his uncle's. Derek had worked at a mid-tier steakhouse chain before Sol y Luna. He could execute recipes, but he had no soul in his cooking. Within 6 months, the quality started slipping. Regular customers noticed. Yelp reviews mentioned inconsistent dishes, and something's changed. A food critic who'd previously raved about us wrote a follow-up that said, "The magic has left the building." I tried to step back in. JV blocked me. "You're not on the schedule anymore," he said. "Derek's the chef now. You're an owner. Act like one. Go home, rest." He changed the schedule without telling me. He hired new kitchen staff who'd never met me. He started telling the front of house team that I was taking a sabbatical. Slowly, methodically, he was erasing me from my own restaurant. Then came the morning. My key didn't work. It was 6:15 a.m. on a Tuesday in October. I'd driven to the restaurant with my knife roll in the passenger seat, determined to reclaim my kitchen. The air was cool and damp, the sky just beginning to lighten over the Austin skyline. I walked up to the back door, inserted my key, and nothing. It wouldn't turn. I tried 3 times. I checked to make sure I had the right key. I did. Javi appeared in the doorway. He was wearing a crisp button-down shirt, sleeves rolled to the elbows, and he didn't look surprised to see me. "Lucia, I was wondering when you'd show up." Inside the office. My office. The one with Abula's photo on the wall. He slid a document across the desk. "A buyout offer. $80,000 for my 51% stake. The restaurant was worth at least $1.2 million by any reasonable valuation, probably more, given our brand recognition." "This is insulting, Javi. You know what this place is worth. Take it or leave it." "The paperwork's already been filed with the Secretary of State. You'll find you're no longer listed as a managing member of the LLC." I felt the floor drop out from under me. "What paperwork?" "Amended corporate resolution. Changing the ownership structure. Your signature's on it." "I never signed anything." "The state of Texas thinks you did." He smiled. It was the same smile he'd given me at the food festival years ago. Charming, easy, and now, terrifying. "I'll sue you," I said, my voice shaking. "With what money?" "The restaurant's liquid assets have been reinvested. And good luck proving forgery when the only witnesses are my employees, on my payroll in my restaurant." I walked out. I didn't cry until I got to my car. Then I sobbed for 20 minutes straight, staring through the windshield at the neon sign I had designed myself. The sun and moon intertwined, glowing pink and gold against the gray morning sky. The next 3 months were the darkest of my life. Carlos and I drained our savings trying to hire a lawyer who would take the case on short notice. Javi's attorneys buried us in motions. The forgery was obvious to anyone who looked closely. My signature, on the documents, looked nothing like my actual handwriting. But proving it in court would take years and cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. I didn't have. I started drinking too much. I stopped cooking. I couldn't bear to make Abula's recipes, because every smell, every taste, reminded me of what I'd lost. Then, in January, the fire happened. It started in the kitchen exhaust system, a grease fire that spread through the ventilation ducts before anyone noticed. The Austin Fire Department responded within minutes, but the damage was extensive. The kitchen was gutted. The dining room suffered severe smoke damage. The iconic neon sign survived, but not much else. Saw why Luna closed indefinitely. Javi was devastated publicly. He posted a tearful video on Instagram, standing in front of the charred building, talking about rebuilding the dream and honoring the legacy. He set up a GoFundMe that raised $47,000 from loyal customers in 3 days. Local news did a sympathetic segment about the tragic loss of an Austin institution. What Javi didn't know, what he'd forgotten in his rush to erase me, was that I still held the insurance policy. The original policy, the one I'd taken out when we first signed the lease, listed me, Lucia Reyes, as the sole beneficiary and primary contact for all property damage claims. Javi had updated the LLC paperwork with the state, but he'd never updated the insurance. It was an oversight born of arrogance. He thought he'd won. He stopped paying attention to details. The fire investigation took 6 weeks. The Austin Fire Department's report concluded that the fire was caused by improper maintenance of kitchen exhaust systems, a direct violation of the cleaning schedule I'd implemented and Javi had stopped enforcing after I left. The report listed my name as the contact person because the original business license, which I'd filed before Javi and I even had a formal partnership agreement, still had my phone number on it. The investigator called me before he called Javi. I received the report first. I read it sitting at my kitchen table, my hands trembling, not from carpal tunnel this time, but from something else, something that felt like hope. I called my lawyer, Rachel Kim. She'd been working on contingency, waiting for a break. This was the break. Rachel filed an emergency motion to freeze the insurance payout. She challenged Javi's ownership claim on the grounds of forgery. She submitted the fire report, the original insurance policy, and a forensic handwriting analysis that proved my signature on the amended LLC documents was fake. The GoFundMe money got frozen too, when donors started asking pointed questions about where the funds were actually going. The insurance company paid out $890,000 for property damage and business interruption. The check was made out to me, the legally recognized beneficiary. Javi got nothing. The forgery investigation led to criminal charges. Javi pleaded to a misdemeanor fraud charge and received 3 years of probation. His real estate license he'd gotten won during the restaurant years. Planning his next move was suspended. The GoFundMe was refunded to donors after a local journalist started asking questions. Javi's reputation in Austin was destroyed. Nobody in the restaurant industry would work with him. His uncle in Houston stopped returning his calls. I took the insurance money and made a decision. I didn't rebuild Sal y Luna. That restaurant belonged to a version of me that no longer existed. A younger, more trusting Lucia who believed that hard work and talent were enough. Instead, I negotiated a settlement with the landlord to terminate the lease, took the remaining funds, and bought a small space in South Austin. It was a former bakery with a tiny kitchen and a big front window that faced east, toward the sunrise. I painted the walls myself, suns and moons, just like before. I hung a Beulah's photo above the pass, where I could see it every time I plated a dish. I called the new place a Beulah's Kitchen. It's smaller than Sal y Luna, 40 seats instead of 120. The menu changes weekly based on what's fresh at the farmer's market. I'm in the kitchen every night, tasting every dish, just like Abuela taught me. Javi works at a chain restaurant in Round Rock now. He's the assistant manager. I know this because a former line cook of mine saw him there and sent me a photo. Javi in a corporate polo shirt, handing out free samples of queso from a crock pot at a strip mall food festival. I keep that photo on my phone, not out of bitterness. I'm not bitter anymore. I keep it as a reminder. 3 months ago, Austin Monthly named Beulah's Kitchen Best New Restaurant. I accepted the award at a ceremony downtown. I wore my grandmother's turquoise necklace, the one she'd worn every day of her adult life. In my speech, I thanked my husband Carlos, my lawyer Rachel, and my abuela Elena, who taught me that food is love made visible. I didn't mention Javi. I didn't need to. Sometimes the best revenge isn't tearing down what they stole. It's building something so beautiful, so authentic, so undeniably yours that their version of the story fades into irrelevance. That's what I did. And every morning, when the sun rises over South Austin and lights up the murals on my walls, I think about the morning my key didn't work, and I realize it was the best thing that ever happened to me. If this story moved you, tell me in the comments. Have you ever lost something you built with your own hands and had to start over? I read every single one. Subscribe for more stories. The ending is always earned.